One thing that we haven't yet discussed in Backbone is how can we take a route or a URI and translate that to a specific method or action. So think about it. If we're trying to build single page web applications, then we need some way to maintain state. So if somebody is at example.com/show, well, then we need some way with JavaScript to hook into that URI and then trigger the necessary method or trigger a custom event accordingly. So how can we do that? Well, in Backbone, we use a router. So you have a couple ways to go about this. You could have multiple routers for an application, but I think you'll likely find for the huge majority of your projects, one or maybe two routers would be more than enough. So here's what I've done. I've started us off with a very boilerplate script. You should be very familiar with this. And the only thing that I've changed is within our app object, I've added a new one for our router. So let's go ahead and define that now so I can demonstrate it. App.router equals backbone.router.extend. Now, once again, if you anticipate having more than one router, then you might want to make that a routers object, and then you would do app.routers.myrouter. But in this case, we'll stick with just one so we can keep it as simple as possible. I'll also go ahead and get rid of the template because it won't be necessary in this lesson. So the first thing we need to do is set up our routes. So we're going to say within this object, what URI translates to what method. So let's just try the most basic one, an empty string, so sort of the default action. That's going to trigger the index method. Well, let's try this out. Index, and I will simply log hi there from the index page. All right, let's view this in the browser. I will open up Chrome Developer Tools with Command Option I. But notice that we're not getting anything at all. Why is that? Well, this can confuse a lot of people at first. We have set up our router, but that's not immediately instantiated. We have to create a new instance of it in the same way we would with a view or model. So let's try this. New app.router. And let's see if that does the trick. One more time, I come back and I reload the page, but no, that doesn't seem to be working either. Well, what we need to do is go ahead and start up Backbone.history. And what that's going to do is begin monitoring hash change events by the browser. Backbone.history.start. We're going to start it up. Now if I reload the page, check it out. Hi there from the index page. Okay, good. So now we know we are correctly monitoring routes. Let's see what else we could do. Well, what if we had something like show? That's going to trigger the show method. So what this translates to is, by default, we're going to use hash style routes. But we can override that. We can take advantage of HTML5 push state. You just need to make a couple tweaks to your server-side setup. So for now, let's stick with the hash format. Well, if I now specify hash show, that would then trigger the show route. And let's see if it works. Show, and we will log show route. So now I reload the page and we're getting show route. We remove it entirely, so we just have the default route and we get hi there from the index page. Go back to show, and now with very little effort, we have a way to hook into these URIs, and that will give us the necessary means to save state so that if somebody, for example, clicks on an image and it zooms in and displays a caption, well, now we can attach a URI to that so that they can send it off to their friends and they will get that exact same state rather than immediately just being presented with the default view that everyone would get when visiting your application for the first time. So, to recap for this lesson, we begin by extending backbone.router. Inside of it, within a routes object, we specify all of the routes as well as the method to trigger. So when the default route is requested, we trigger the index method on the router object. When the show route is requested, we trigger the show method accordingly. Next, we need to instantiate it, so we create a new instance of app.router, and then we use backbone.history.start to tell Backbone that it's okay to begin monitoring the hash change events. In the next lesson, we'll discuss some different ways that we can write these routes. I will see you there.